Yeah, so we've got this crazy ambitious goal that we set a few years ago of impacting 100,000 women by the end of 2025. And I'm appreciating that that is so soon. Um, but we just did our impact report last year at the end of last financial year, so about August 2024. And our estimated impact across all of the things that we've done, speaking events and conferences and webinars and everything, is about 63,000 people we think we've impacted over the last 10 years. And I'm still in the process of doing this year's numbers, so I don't have an update for you yet, but I think we're like vanishingly close to being able to hit that target. And where that number came from is a few years ago when we were looking at how many people we needed in tech in Australia by 2025 for Australia to stay globally competitive. That number was 200,000 is what we needed in tech. And we were like, wouldn't that be amazing if half of the people coming into tech were women? That hasn't quite been how it's happened, but we're still seeing like more and more women at events when I go to conferences, even anecdotally hearing the uptake of women in tech. So there's progress being made, but there's absolutely still more that needs to happen, and across all levels. So teaching young women that they can do and be whatever they want to be, and supporting women who are mid-career or later in their career that you can career pivot. You don't need to be scared of AI. There are opportunities available kind of throughout that whole trajectory. So that's what I'm really focused on now, is not only the practical upskilling and retraining, but how do we shift that narrative away from one of fear to one of opportunity. And there's millions of stories that I could tell you. So one of my alumni, she always wanted to be in STEM when she was at high school, and she was told by a very well-meaning university professor that she was too chatty and too loud, and too outgoing to be in science, so she didn't do it, and went into a business route. And it was her meeting me and other women in the community and being like, oh wait, hang on, Kate's fun, Kate's loud, Kate's chatty, I could do that. Learned how to code, then had some time off to have her first son, her first child, and is now a software developer and is doing amazingly. And just seeing that, this is something that she'd thought about her whole life, and being able to do that and seamlessly pivot into a tech career, even with a young toddler, is incredible. Doing that career change in the middle of everything else changing in your life. So that's one. I've also had dozens of women who've been able to buy a house or change fundamentally their circumstances, because they've gone from working casual, part-time, insecure work to getting relatively well-paying work in a tech field, and the confidence boost that that's given them, as well as the financial security and stability to buy a house and do all of the things that you want to do. So that's really incredible, that we're not just building community and confidence and skills, it's also these fundamental parts of life that we're able to change. Yeah, so I think women in general struggle with knowing their value and knowing their worth. And I think I've heard maybe 100 pep talks, and it's still really hard because there's that little voice in your head that's like, maybe who am I to say that I'm worth this much? Or who am I to say that this costs a certain amount? And it is a little bit of imposter syndrome. So my advice, which I don't necessarily take, but my advice is to try and validate those, isolate if it's a real problem or if it's just a concern kind of in your brain, figuring out where that fear might be coming from, and then validating it with as many facts as possible. So looking at what other people are pricing things at, talking to your friends or the people that you admire, and not worrying so much about what people are going to think, but what is practical for where you're at and what your services cost, and where do you want to be. But it's a hard process, and I'm definitely still learning. Yeah, so this is one of my favorite stories. Is the very first workshop that we ran. Someone on my team sent an email saying, "We'll see you for breakfast in the morning." And I read this and panicked because I'm like, we don't have breakfast and we don't have any money for breakfast. Um, and so my event hat went on of like, I've got a problem, I've got to solve it. We've got no budget. I'm just going to bake a bunch of savory muffins and we'll call that breakfast. Just in case someone is starving and turned up thinking that there's going to be food and there's no food. And I think that that mentality really is integral to the startup founder life and to event life. Sometimes you've just got to, done is better than perfect, and you've just got to try and get something done and then iterate on like, okay, that happened this time. How can we set some plan A, B, C, D, E, F in place so that for next time, if that comes up, I've got a solution to that problem, or I've got something up my sleeve that I can. People don't need to know that there was problems happening behind the scenes, and I think that that's taken me really far. And I also say that my best and my worst quality is if I say that I'm going to do something, I will do it, which is amazing because I do the same things that I say that I'm going to do. The problem is that I'll do it at any cost. So if that is staying up till midnight to make 85 muffins because I promised someone breakfast, I will do it. And a sensible person would probably be like, maybe it's okay just to let people down every now and again. Maybe it doesn't matter. But I actually do think that that's been really important to the success of the work that we've done, because people know that when I tell them that I'm going to do something, I'm going to make it happen, even if there is a personal cost along the way. So I know that it's my best and my worst quality, and I need to balance that sometimes. But it's those small things that make a real difference to people, of feeling like they're special and wanted, and this is for them. And the micro details go a long way as well. So for any other founders out there, like, you sometimes need to sweat the small stuff, but in a sustainable way. I do stuff that scares me all the time. So I'm not a software developer. All of the people who teach for me are better software developers than I am. All my girls are better software developers than I am. And that used to be a huge source of insecurity and imposter syndrome for me, because I'm like, what if people find out that I'm not the best software developer in the world? What if they think badly of me for that? But I've realized that that isn't what makes me who I am, and not what makes me successful and good at the work that I do. And so now I'm kind of leaning into it, and I'm like, let's just try stuff. Like, what's the worst that can happen if I build some content and get some feedback on it, and just try things. The other day I was deploying something and it failed the first 12 times, but that 13th time when it went through, oh my God, it felt like Christmas. I'm like, my deployment worked. I'm so happy. So there's that joy of being able to try something that you don't know how to do, feel like a little bit of a failure, and then come full circle to like, holy shit, I did it. So yeah, I keep trying stuff. I'm also a hula hooper, and people say to me, they're like, "Oh, you must just be like naturally good at it." No one is naturally good at hula hooping, or I think any sport. You just have to put in the effort and try and drop the hoop a million times, and then pick it back up and keep going, and playing with different tricks and improvising, I think, has made me better at running events and being able to speak at events and think on my feet, because I'm used to the chaos of things happening around me, and having those moments of not being in complete control, but also knowing what the next move might be, which is kind of what sport and dance and art teaches you, is that like structured chaos. So I definitely think, as a society, we need to be more curious and we need to be more willing to try stuff. And that's where that fear kind of that's how we can chip away at that fear of knowing that I can try things and there's a safe environment for me to fail and nothing's bad is going to happen. If I don't understand it, I can just be like, okay, cool, I didn't quite understand that. I'll go and ask for help, or I'll put that aside for a bit and I'll come back to it later, and not putting so much pressure on, I need to know everything in the next 5 minutes, or I'm a failure. I'm not a failure, just this one bit failed. And that's okay. That's so okay. And especially as we move into the world of AI, that's going to be more and more allowing that opportunity for failure, and not having to be this perfect, crisp, inhuman version of ourselves, is going to be really important. I feel like there's so many, particularly around like the do's and don'ts of social media. And I was talking about this with someone the other day, that if you Google like inspiration of what to post on social, everything's like, you've got to post 4 times a day and it's got to be like this and it's got to be like this. But if we're all following these rules and doing it the exact way that everybody else is doing it, then you lose the opportunity to be you. And that might be why people are absorbing your content, because you're different. So I try not to get hung up on too many of those like rules, because they're a formula that might work for one industry or one kind of person, but doesn't mean that it has to happen for everyone. The other rule that people told me is that if I ran free events, people wouldn't value it, and people would drop out, or people would, with the boot camp that I run, it's a 6-month boot camp. I give out scholarships. We've given out about 2.5 million in scholarships over the last 10 years. And people told me, if you give out all of these free scholarships, people will not come halfway through the class, and then you'll have this massive dropout rate. Our dropout rate is very, very tiny. It's like 1, maybe 2 people per program. And the reasons people drop out are stuff that's completely unavoidable, like their family, there was a death in the family, or someone got really sick, or stuff that's completely outside the bounds of like, oh, I just didn't come because I didn't pay for it. But people told me if people don't pay for it, they're not going to value it. And I was like, I really do challenge that. And there's other ways that you can prove commitment. And the way that we do that is, it's a very rigorous application process. They have to interview for it. It's competitive. And if they drop out, they know that they've kind of lost a massive opportunity that they may not be able to get back again. And that is what keeps them. And, we create a safe environment and there's a great experience and all of that kind of stuff. But there's other ways to kind of get that buy-in other than money. And so many people told me that I was absolutely crazy. And I'm like, oh, well, let's just try. We'll do 1 cohort like this and we'll just see what happens. And we've done 11 now. And across the board, it's been the same experience, that we keep having very, very low dropout numbers, particularly compared to other types of formal education, because there's just a different value exchange. Yeah, so for me, everything comes back to people and purpose. And I think I've been saying that since I was about 19. I want to be around good people and I want to be doing something that's good for the world. And when we do like values exercises, I've done that so many times in team building experiences, my strongest value is making a difference. So I just want to do something every day to kind of move the needle. And I was saying this to a therapist a few years ago, that like, I want to leave a legacy. And anyway, her response to that was less than positive, so I'm not going to repeat it. But there's so many ways that you can build a legacy in the world, but I want to leave the world a better place than I entered it. And that's in big ways and in small ways. It's the individual lives that you touch, but also the effect that we're making on the industry and the impact that we're making on technology and all of those things as well. So that it really is the core of who I am, is that idea of kind of making a difference. And there's so many things that keep me up at night. I'm very passionate about women and diversity, and I'm very, very passionate about education, because we can solve so many of the world's problems by solving the education gap. The best success success for a person, best indicator of success for a person is their postcode, and what school that they went to. And that's crazy to me. So I think we do need a whole shake-up of what education looks like and how we can provide education in different ways, which is definitely changing, and technology is affecting that. But education and advocacy for women and girls globally are the two things that are keeping me up at night at the moment. I think that there is so much pressure in high school that kids have to decide their whole life in the next 5 minutes. And I think that's completely crazy. The jobs of the future don't exist yet. So stop worrying about them. Stop worrying about, I need to do this mark to get this degree, to get this job, because by the time you finish that whole process, that job is going to change. And now more than ever, things are moving really quickly. That job might look completely different in 5 years. So stop worrying about the end result and worry about the joy of learning and of trying stuff. So being curious, trying lots of different things. And when you're young, you have the opportunity to try lots of different things with less consequences. So take the opportunity to try stuff. But my billboard would say the jobs of the future don't exist yet. So stop worrying about them. Focus on the joy of learning and being curious. People aren't bad people. They just maybe don't understand some of the challenges because they haven't experienced them themselves. And we've had some really powerful moments. I remember one really early on that a guy was in a room with like 100 women at one of my events, and I'm making him wear a purple mentor shirt. And he looked at me and he was like, I just feel really uncomfortable. I feel like everyone's staring at me. Is this how you feel? And I'm like, yeah, all the time. And he was like, oh, I've never felt that before. I've never felt like everyone's staring at me. I've never been a minority. I've never felt uncomfortable and like people are going to challenge me just because of what I look like and the room that I'm in. And that was such a powerful moment for him. So I would love to see more people putting themselves in situations where their kind of belief system gets a little bit challenged and they feel a little bit uncomfortable, because it's those moments of feeling a little bit uncomfortable that make you learn so much about other people and build that empathy. There's still a lot of challenges for women, particularly for female founders. There's lots of challenges in crazy questions that get asked by investors of, are you sure that you can do this and not take time off to have family? The idea that family is still being demonized across all industries is wild, because there is so many strengths that come from being a mother, being able to balance things, and having a different perspective. There's lots and lots of questions that get thrown at women that don't get thrown to men. And it's the like, for the women that I talk to, it's a lot of the time that they feel like they don't get believed, that these things are still happening, or that they feel like there's a bias or a gap, and it's sharing those stories with other women that are like, oh yeah, I get that because I feel that too. And that's why we kind of create these safe spaces where people can talk and they can feel like, okay, cool, all right, I'm not the only one, I'm not crazy, I'm not broken, I'm not dumb. Other people feel this too, and let's talk together about how we can address those challenges or how we can build each other up, when the world might be trying to tear us down, having those communities that kind of build us back up again.